A circuit that needs no introduction. As labelled by Sir Jackie Stewart, a three-time Formula One champion, this place is the green hell. So for these drivers in the PT Autosport eSeries, you ask, it's possibly the longest circuit that the current world of racing has to offer. What car can you possibly challenge them with? The answer is, why don't we give them a car that does not like right-hand turns? They are driving in the Xfinity Supra here today, looking to make this challenge known. This is Euro NASCAR railed up towards 11, 12, 13 out of 10. And my word, are we in for a treat. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your action here on the Global Sim Racing channel. My name is Jake Sperry. Alongside with me for the ride today is Craig King. Dougie Beard has provided the cameras as Christian Deploy sits in the director's chair with a little bit of help from Daniel Costello. Now, to this Hissam Strecker circuit here, this 24-hour variant, possibly the longest circuit in the world, one of the most storied 24-hour races in the world of motorsport today, and a circuit that could never, ever be built like this again. Let's get an understanding of all 170 turns today with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 World Champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff, there's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as fluke plots, miss hit miss, bravery corner, and of course, the ever iconic carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect.
We're talking lap times of approaching 9 minutes here today around this circuit, Craig. But when you hit this track, there is an element of just pure panic when you go and try and get yourself sorted. There's a reason why this is a circuit that everyone prides themselves on when they get to road testing vehicles, saying, well, how fast did you go around the Nordschleife? But this full layout is going to be one which tests each and every single element of a driver. This is one of the most unique challenges in motorsport.
Yeah, well, there's a reason Jackie Stewart called it the Green Hell, and it really is just a hell out there. Everywhere you look, once you get off the Grand Prix circuit, is barriers. You go off, you've got grass, but you've got enough grass to basically just cushion that blow into the barriers. You're still going to hit it, and these cars, they're going to have a lot of challenge with that. Not to mention as well, it's an old track, lots of raised curbs out there today, so it's going to be very vital to make the moves. On the track map, you see some of the important parts of the track there today. The fluke plats, it will not be flat in these cars, I can tell you that right now. Metzger Field is going to be another tough one. The carousel, these cars should be able to take it at that camber, but the Dottinger Hoa will be very interesting today, Jake, because I've seen these drivers not be able to take the Kesselchen straight on full throttle. So what's going to happen when they get to the bridge when it comes to the Dottinger Hoa? That's going to be very interesting to see.
It will do, especially when they run through the Antonius Busch into Tiergarten. That section of track is going to be a case of who is the bravest on the brakes, and that's the aim of the game. Who is going to be the bravest? Because you're not going to get that natural sense of following in the slipstream as you would do at other circuits. This is a championship and an all-important one, because with PT Autosport, they're racing for a place in the PT Autosport Shootout. After racing action last time out, Garrett Maines moved himself up into the main points position out there overall, ahead of Benjamin Nelson, with Daniel Folkingham in third position overall. You then got Andy Trupiano in fourth, with Matteo Kunze in fifth, ahead of Louis Bailicker and Christian Hinds in seventh place. You then got Jacob Bradley, Mark Anthony Hinkson, and Hugo Allen making up your top 10 in your overall drivers standing. Seeing a driver like Garrett Maines out there and how strong he is, drivers like Daniel Folkingham in third position, it goes to show you how strong this field is and how important a full-time drive will be.
It's going to be very interesting, and this is really actually going to separate the men from the boys, just because of what's going to happen out there on the track today. So it is really throwing up a different idea of how to drive, not just this track, as you don't see it around here. It's going to be very interesting with the third round out here today, Jake. I'm really curious to see what they can do to transport some of the previous talent into this race.
We're talking about a driver's partnership worth $250,000 over 2 races here today at the midway point of the season. Half an hour each of them will be. And of course, when they're going around these laps, they will have to go and finish all of the laps that they start. So we are somewhere in the region of 35 minutes to complete 4 laps worth of racing here today. The NASCAR Xfinity Supra is one of the most pliable. It's the easiest to get your head into when it comes to driving NASCAR-style machinery, along with the street stock and the late model. So you sit down and understand this is your road to try and jump on the Xfinity Series, and to an extent, jumps you on the ladder to the likes of the ARCA Series and all the way up to NASCAR itself. And of course, all of these drivers would not have known what the car track combination would have been until just an hour before they got the first server up. We've had a couple of issues today, so they've had 2 hours to get themselves working on this. And the big key of trying to be the most pliable out there is that, yes, you can say you've driven the car, but how many people can say that they've driven this NASCAR Xfinity Supra on the Nordschleife?
Well, the only person I can think of that has driven a stock car on iRacing on the Nordschleife is a one Jimmy Broadbent, and there's no Jimmy Broadbent out here today, and people may be relying on some of those videos just to get some sighting laps. The Xfinity car is perhaps the most popular car in the Oval Series on iRacing, so some of these drivers will have that experience. But again, how do you take this experience on a car that doesn't do a lot of road racing and use it into a track that basically has every corner in the world put together? It's going to be very interesting as we see Dalton coming down. This is what I was really looking at. Look at the braking. Jake, remember Daytona? When they made the road course for NASCAR, they had to add a chicane because they realized if they broke for the first corner, they would have to brake by the start-finish line. How early do you have to brake when you come up to Tiergarten?
The answer is basically when you hit the compression down at the bottom of the hill there at Tiergarten. That's the only place you can find a true stopping motion there. No time set by Zavadil. He's on a 9:01.6, which is a full 11 seconds off the fastest time out there, set by Louis Bailicker out there at the moment. Here's Tannen Hibschman in the dying stages of qualifying, and we will see this. He might be one of the last drivers to get himself over towards the line, and he will definitely need to find that time out there. You can see this is a field of over 20 drivers, and you're looking around and you're seeing just 13 out there have set a time. Bailicker improves to an 8:50.1, improves by 0.7 of a second out there. Nate Stewart rolling to a stop, but Hibschman is one of those last drivers who needs a time, and Aaron Smith, the champion from last year, wasn't able to continue on. He's been running predominantly as a driver, looking to try and just take this as a one-off, just to see what the competition's like. He goes second fastest on an 8:50.7. Hibschman will, I think, just not make it over the line, so that's going to set things out then for this race number 1. They are now looking around and saying, what do they want to look at? And I think with the way that everything has just gone forward, I think we might just be angling up towards this first race going along. We believe we've just seen Heat 1 just skip, and so we'll be into warm-up before running into feature. So it looks like we're going to have a few issues. There's been a lot of issues all race long, trying to get everything sorted together, but that is also the nature of the beast, that they've all had to adapt here around this circuit to try and put everything together. What we can do is run through the grid. We've got about 5 minutes before we do that. In fact, we are going to run over to the race. So it will be Louis Beilicker who is on the pole position with an 850.119. He will have Aaron Smith alongside him for company on the front row overall. Following that is your championship leader, Garrett Maines, with Matteo Kunze in 4th place on the grid. It then follows Nate Stewart and Benjamin Nelson, who's second in the championship, with Patrick Hingston in 7th position on row 4 and has Dalton Zavadil for that company. Matthew Deschênes will go from 9th position on the grid, and there is Bryce Rodriguez, who will be there in 10th with a 9:03.542.
Very quickly with the last of the time qualifiers, Mark Anthony Hinkson will be 11th, Aaron Ramon will be 12th, and then Brandon Williams 13th. Anton Schloper will be the last time qualifier, so everyone then goes by iRacing, which is Daniel Folkingham in 15th, Andy Trupiano in 16th, Bryce Weyer in 17th, Alessandro Ranieri 18th, Charles Wimby will be 19th, and Brandon Devine will be 20th.
Yeah, and further behind that, you've got the likes of Riley Stasny there, Dustin Yang, Christian Hint has to go back from there, so too Zachary Mertz, who's got to do more as well. Connor Henry back there in 25th with Noah Ingram Harrison in 26th, and then Tannen Hibschman and Brendan Blinn will be the final 2 drivers. Hibschman short by about 5 seconds overall, and that cost him the opportunity to go out there and make the biggest challenge possible out there for this race. So these drivers now will be in a gridding process. They've got a timer set now to 5 minutes to get those final opportunities ready out there to move on into this one. Now, one of the keys here with this car is that it is really going to struggle. You can see just how much camber there is on the front right tyre there of the number 24 as we go up the grid and have a little look here as they move on by. They are going to be keeping out an eye on a car that quite naturally likes turning left around these circuits. The issue that you're going to run into is these drivers are going to want to try and do everything they possibly can to get as much out of the car through what is a predominantly clockwise circuit. So they'll be on road course setup, trying to get as much rotation in the car that pretty much does not want to stop at any given point and doesn't have much downforce to get it through the corner. It's very reliant on the mechanical grip.
Yeah, a way I like to describe this is the closest that we'll probably get to what we have seen around here on other broadcasts, similar to something like the Lotus 49s or something like the Audi GTOs. Just with that longer braking zone and just having to shift down the gears. Because remember, they still have to blip to get the car down in the gears on these events. So that's an issue you have to rely on here. I expect to see it here today, Jay. Some drivers wanted to take a little bit late braking, missing their shifting points as well. We may get a couple drivers lose the rear of this car when downshifting for such corners like Callahan, for something like Arenberg. Some of those high-speed corners, we may see a couple of those happening.
Yeah, those high-speed corners, I think, are going to be the toughest places out there because they are going to have to lift off the throttle. They are going to have to pretty much find the rotation. And this is where drivers who are very good with the trail brake are going to be exponentially quicker than those who are not, because you've got to get the rotation through the corner. And it's about how much you want to burn the tires at a track, which is very tire-intensive.
And that's going to be very interesting because the track temp, 48 Celsius, 119 Fahrenheit. I have never seen a track this warm at the Nordschleife, Jake. You've got more experience than I have on the sim. I don't think even you've seen a track temp like this around here.
Not around here. I've seen track temperatures higher at circuits like Interlagos, for example, but part of iRacing's weather system has really brought into play that the weather is there. There's a lot of wind about as well here, 21 kilometers an hour coming in through in fixed weather conditions. It will stay at the hottest it possibly can at just about 25 past 1 in the afternoon. So it's not often that you see fixed conditions anymore on iRacing. It used to be a staple. Now, with iRacing's new weather system in play, you get to see all of the dynamics of weather come into fruition. And if drivers go off around this circuit, and believe me, we are expecting it around such a long circuit, keep an eye on debris refresh and the new dynamic track system. We could see a lot of grass and gravel deposited back out onto the circuit. We expect this area of the track to be the easiest, though. It's a little bit wider, it's a little bit more open, a little bit more expansive than as they run on the Grand Prix Strecke. So that will give them the chance before they attack the Nordschleife on the Gesam Strecke 24-hour variant out there. But they are now down to just their final 20 seconds, and they would have been out there, and those who have been out there are hoping that they've got what they need. Just the one driver to keep an eye out on who is not yet on the grid, that's Bryce Weyer, who is not yet out there. And so if he does decide to not take his grid slot in the next 5 seconds, he will be starting from pit lane. There are the Eagle Goodyears then of Louis Beilicker, who is on the pole position. The German then in his full display on home soil. This is his advantage that he will want to try and go with, and the grid missed then by Weyer. So this will mean that as the green flag drops, everyone looks to get the best they can. How often do you see a NASCAR standing start out there as they make the run down towards the Yokohama S to start this lap? Everybody trying to find the right gear, diving down through the opening corners, and expect a little bit of contact there, as already we see it between Aaron Smith and the 60 of Matteo Kunze, who is trying to get the drive, looking for as much launch off of the exit and hoping for a bit more. It's a perfect start by Beilicker, but 2 by 2 they go through Goodyear and down the hill to the Padgett Racing curve.
Fantastic start for Kuzna, and Beilicker now has the best of lines he can. We did see Anton Schloper in the background on the start line lose control. Real tough to get these cars going from standing start. Great work from the drivers. You can now see that Smith is just having to hold off a ascending Kuzna. He really wants to make that move into the hairpin. Going up the Schumacher S is going to be very interesting. They may have to get on the brakes. Just watch out for a moment here.
Yeah, and we're seeing drivers struggling there, coming out of the hairpin there, the homage to the top of the circuit and the Caricola Carousel, which is out there on track. The Goodyear hairpin so important, but rushing through these 2 next corners, which become so important out there, left, then into the Bilstein of right, and then they're going to now take this run up the hill. This used to be the Advan Arch. They've now renamed it into one of the most beautiful corner names, the Falkenbogen corner, up to the Vidal chicanery. They are now going to start charging with everything they've got on board with Kunze through the chicane, the left, then the right, through the middle gears, and then the left, which enters from the new into the old. Welcome to the Nordschleife.
Welcome to the Nordschleife, and we say hello once again to Sabine as we go to the Sabine-Schmidt curve to start the time down into the green hell. And now we get to really see what they have on to offer. This is usually flat. They have to really work on feathering that throttle and brake. Really good work in from Matteo in the 60. He has to hold on to the back here. The key process for a Nordschleife race is you stay as a pack and then look to the back of the track at the Dottinger Hohe to start making some moves. That could be the experience we see today. But again, Kesselchen could be very interesting later in the lap.
Yeah, we're just getting word in that with all of the issues that we've had, we're going to be down to just one race here today. Time restrictions have brought themselves into play. Here's Benjamin Nelson. He's 2nd in the championship. He's 7th on the road currently and has lost out on these opening laps to just a handful of drivers. So he's got to really charge. He goes up through Flugplatz here, which is such a heavy section of track. So easy to get air over that section, immediately onto the brakes for the next right-hander. So you are pretty much trying to find every way to go. Just in front of him, it's Nate Stewart against Patrick Hingston. Hingston lets Nate have it. The new eNASCAR driver there is Nate Stewart, who runs wide as he goes through Schwedenkreuz and somehow keeps the car pointing in the right direction. He will run a little bit deep. Hingston gets into the back of him, and now they'll fight all the way to the Foxruhr corner. A little bit of blinking going about in play, but Nate Stewart now dancing through. This is going to be a battle through compression.
Did you ever expect to see 2 Xfinity cars go side by side down into the compression? I never did, but some fantastic racing there. And one driver's going a little bit too wide there into the gravel, into the grass. I believe that was Matthew there. Yeah, the number 5 losing out there, keeps the car under control, but he's going to lose a couple positions there. Give it that one mistake. Too much speed at the compression. You can do that in any car.
You absolutely can. Bryce Rodriguez moves through then on Matthew Deschênes. We'll take a look. This is Aaron Ramon, so he gets the air. Look at the rear's lock as he tried to get the car slowed down. His Toyota Supra going spread eagle sideways then through at Flugplatz, and he is a lucky, lucky boy to not be in the barriers.
He's got to be buying a lottery ticket after today, because that's a fantastic little move to hold that car. Good car control out there from him. And now you just start to see as they start to work down. This is miss hit miss, as we call it. And Benjamin Nelson trying to find an opportunity not to make an overtake down here, but just to find the lines, get out the dirty air, give yourself a nice clean run, hopefully try to work it. And look, gone a little bit too wide down into the corner. Patrick Hinkson will hold on to this. These three are just working together now. This is what you want. Stewart's got the pace. Why bother to make a move? And in fact, there goes the move. Very late braking, side by side. They're going to spin and holds it. A brilliant hold.
It's a great hold, but it's, again, 2 places lost for Benjamin Nelson on a day where he realised at round 2 Garrett Maines had his number. He's now got to really respond after he did the double over at the season opener. So he is someone who desperately needs to find some form, and at the moment it is 4 clear at the front. Bieliker from Smith, from Kunze, from Garrett Maines, who's there in 4th place. Nelson in P9 right now. We'll take a look. This is Christian Hind, who finds himself in trouble. So this is up at Ardenauer first. 1 and 2. That's what happens when you follow someone's brake tracks. You can see them both go off in sympathy of each other. Oh, and there's the tag from behind as well on the rejoin. I think it was the 53 who got himself in. So that would have been Taman and Hibschman who found himself in the contact. And now you've got the likes of Dalton Zavadil now looking to try and bring his race into play against Matthew Deschênes. And then everybody is starting to figure out where can we push the margins around this one race here at the Gesamtstrecke 24-hour version of the Nürburgring.
Now you can see different drivers taking different lines out there, with drivers getting caught off. Wide again goes to Shens, and he's going to lose another set of positions there. But now you just start to see some drivers are still a little bit unsure of where they're braking. They've had all these times. Again, he's off at the carousel. Lots of time lost. They have to work out how to take this track. You do get a few laps of practice, but it's an 8-9 minute lap out here, Jake. You don't have the time to make much learning out there. You basically just have to go on instinct.
You absolutely do, and Garrett Maines might be the best instinct driver out there. He's trying to get back to even against Matteo Kunze as they've gone over the top of Hoheacht and now start working on the backside of the circuit down through Wipperman corner. They now start to look, and over through to Eschbach is the next section. This is the part of the track where if you see any Nürburgring crash compilations, they're all here.
They're all here, and it's also one of the drivers' favorite parts of the track. Just the way you go up and down, left and right, avoiding the curbs, and then taking more curves. And you want to make sure you don't go too far off into the gravel around this corner, and just keep that speed down, and up they go once again. They're about to come down into the Flatsgarten, one of my favorite parts of the track, but it is oh so tight, oh so bumpy. They're going to have to be careful not to take too much air out of that tire.
Flansgarten is one of those sections where you're on a roller coaster and you've just got to hope you hold, and look at the lines being taken as they squirrel across. A lot of curve by Kunze. Now let's take a look at Anton Schopler here, all the way from the start of this race. So immediately you can see Swarm, and he wouldn't have been expecting a car down the inside. He gets turned right across the pit exit and then gets turned around right to the back. So for Schopler, a disastrous start, but it just goes to show you the aggressive factor that's needed. And now here, 2nd, 3rd and 4th continues on. Smith having to go into the defense through the mini carousel, one of only 2 places on the lap where you don't drive on asphalt, you drive on concrete through the corner, back on the old roads that they have going around, now up through the Golgenkopf. And now this is where the drive becomes paramount, because this is the Dottinger Curve, possibly the longest pure straight in all of motorsport.
Longest pure straight everywhere, so much so the FIA had to put rules down so no one could make a straight longer than this because of safety standards. And now let's see if the slipstream is going to work. Always look for overtake down this straight, but with how spread out they are, they're unable to really catch up a lot. Look how fast Garrett Maines is doing, 180, 190. All of a sudden, this is almost super speedway speed that they're doing. A little bit of a lift down there, now braking for the Tiergarten, avoiding the curve. He can make up time on the brakes, so can Kuzner as well and Aaron Smith, but it's just not working for them.
Well, the one thing they'll know is they're around the final couple corners and they get to say one after that. One lap score complete in this race and one opportunity that they've managed. And here comes the drive then for Benjamin Nelson trying to get back through on Bryce Rodriguez. He's got the toe in front from Patrick Hingston and there's not much that can be done. Rodriguez finds himself now having to attack right down on the brakes. They'll be going well under 100. He locks up the front, trying to get it all slowed down, but you got a big up and under of the Yokohama S to try and get it back, and then you're fighting for it, try and get that drive, and Nelson just about gets what he wants, which is the place, and a great move at that. Kunze has now lost out the place. Garrett Maines makes his way through. He moves up, and what a move by Garrett Maines. We need to get this on replay. He got him round the outside of one corner and stove down the inside of the Paget Racing curve to get the other.
Beautiful move from Garrett. We'll look at that later. The Yokohama S, we've just seen that. It's probably the slowest corner these cars will ever face, ever. They don't do speed that slow in the Xfinity cars on road courses. So really interesting to see how these cars try to squeeze through, and it just caused a lot of issues. There is battling in the back of the field. Zachary Mertes just having a little bit of a spin, and that's what's going to happen out there if you get a little bit too hot on the throttle coming out of that corner.
Yeah, on the nose of Alessandro Ranieri. You can lean a little bit, but Ranieri, who lit up the tyres, found himself into the side and not much he could do. Here is Daniel Falkingham. If you've ever seen him out there racing on iRacing, he's in everything oval you can possibly imagine, and now side by side with a very much struggling Matthew Deschênes out there, who had a horrible first corner out to the start of his second lap, side by side through the Falkenbogen up towards the Vidal chicanery. And give it up, Matthew, because there goes Daniel Falkingham up into the top 10.
Matthew almost goes a bit too hot into the rears. He comes onto the green hell and almost goes into the back of Falkingham, but manages to get it under control, slows it down. It's a man that's got a lot of experience. This is the move with Garrett Maines here. Comes out the Yokohama S. You're going to watch some really good setup here. This is almost a GT move when you look at what he does here. This is Goodyear that he's just going to come by, takes this here, going to set himself up with a really lovely move, sees the gap, goes into it. That is as sports car racing can be around here, and that is a tip of the hat to Garrett Maines.
And on top of that, Aaron Smith went off outside of the Vidal chicanery. That's why he's now down in fourth and puts Garrett Maines, the championship leader, up to second place. 3.5 seconds to chase down, but Matteo Kunze, who sits on the back of him, now knows that he is with the hot hand and is looking to try and navigate back up to Louis Beilicker, who, with the local knowledge out there, is flying out there at the front of this field. It's a rite of passage for a lot of German iRacers out there and everyone from the DH community to make sure that the Nürburgring is the best track that you can go out there and drive. And you see it so often with the likes of the old school VLN races that there used to be out there on iRacing, and still is to some extent. Here's Aaron Smith's issue. He attacks over the inside curb and then just can't get the car worked out and sorted. He moves over to the right-hand side, has to jump over the Tony Hawk curb there on the left-hand side, colloquially named for everybody who finds himself beached on it. And that just shows you just how hard they're going. And even though they're struggling a little bit with top speeds through some of these corners, you really get a sense of speed out of these cars.
Yeah, you get the speed out of those cars, and that just moment there that you saw of Aaron Smith just showed the speed there. You also just saw what happened there with Hingston, as he just had a bit of a moment coming into Ardenal Force, and that allowed Nelson to get on by. Here's Tannen Hipsterman. He's still trying to make his way through the field after a very good start as well at the back of the field. He's got Ingram Harrison in front of him, and behind him he's got Ranieri as well. And up ahead of him there's going to be a crash because there is a couple cars just off up ahead. Should be able to get going in time. But the speed you're seeing out here today, it's just really interesting to see how do you slow down something so big and so powerful. You get on the loud pedal, well, the quiet pedal, and you just hope and pray.
It was Riley Stasny who went off the road on his own up there at Ardenau first. That's why there's tyre tracks over at that section. But for Hibschman here over the top half of the circuit, this is one of the highest places out there on the track, and Hibschman finds himself in the middle with Ranieri behind trying to move through. Noah Ingram Harrison is the driver in front in his machine right now. Here comes the lunge down the inside, and Ranieri hoping every way there is an opportunity to make that move, but you have to be a little bit pick and choosy here when it comes to the Nürburgring Nordschleife, because every corner in theory is a place you can pass. The issue with this circuit is you need the long sections to go and make those moves, and so the best place is going along the louder links.
Yeah, that's probably the best section around here, especially due to the elevation chain. Different lines being taken there. Ranieri been getting a little bit too hot down into the braking zone there, and he's looking to just hold on right now. Losing a bit of time to Ingram Harrison of these two, as you can see him starting to drive away. And here comes a move by Ranieri, but he can't hold it. He's going to lose it, slide the rear. That's not the first time we've seen it by a driver out here today. It can be an overtaking corner, but you've got to get that speed down so quickly as you go to the bridge.
Yeah, and at this bridge, you now start working out where's the next move. Big slide in the background there from Christian Hinz. He's got to be pretty switched on to anything that possibly happens. And I think all of these drivers realize that this is not going to be your atypical race where you go out there and you can attack and you can go and win this race just by driving, and you're not going to see many groups. This is going to feel like an endurance, almost like a rally of some sort. So I would say this has more Targa vibes than anything else out there.
Oh, I love that sound. I love that description. It's fantastic. This is the track where if you know how to drive it, you are the better driver. It doesn't matter if you know the machinery, and you're really starting to see some of those drivers using that to their advantage. These three, Folkingham, Deschines, Savaldi, all trying to make moves, but going around the carousel, it's just the right time. It is a beautiful sight, though, Jake. Seeing not one car, but multiple cars all going through the carousel. But a move here, I don't think so.
Oh, very nearly from Matthew Deschane with Dalton Zavadil watching on. Daniel Folkingham was very much switched onto it and doing what he can. Now, Andy Trupiano finds himself in the middle of this, and he just lifts out of it, wants nothing heading towards Hoyarts with Stasny and Aaron Ramon, who was there. And it was all due to the fact that the 71 of Trupiano missed the banking coming out of the carousel. The very much newly named Caracciolo carousel, named after the first ever winner of the Nürburgring, which is Mr. Caracciolo, and also one of the first drivers ever to pilot a Silver Arrows Mercedes.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Factual Day with Jake. Every day is a day of facts with Jake, and this is the day of racing. Astanzi trying to just hold on. He knows he's got a little bit more temperament and a little bit more smoothness, but he just makes that mistake, and the commentator's curse catches him a bit too hot down into that corner. I believe that's Whipperman. Loses the back, saves it, but he does lose a position and loses all that time.
All that has to be reconvened again, and this is going to be something that is going to continue on and on and on. The longer that this race goes on, and we're expecting 4 laps worth of racing here, those tyres are going to be screaming out in agony each and every time. On board with Dalton Zavadil from Club West, looking at the continued battle of Folkingham and Deschane, and Folkingham has gone too deep there, and he's got to be so careful, just about brings it back, but everybody sees that there's no way to go through. Bumping and banging for both of them through the Schrabenschranz, and now into this mini carousel. Again, another little look from Deschane, and this is what this track does. It's torturous. It's like trying to get out of a rose bush. It's just thorny and prickly, and every place you just want to make moves, and you just have to wait. This is the ultimate tease of the right foot, trying to use the throttle.
And I tell you who's got the best foot right now, it's Zavadil, and he's had to get off it a little bit, but this is fantastic. And I think Deschane has gone a little bit too early there, but maybe he's going to look for a little bit of a NASCAR bump draft here from Zavadil to help him. And here they go, but the speed difference. Folkingham on his own is just pulling away. You think that there'd be an opportunity to make a move down into Tiergarten, but with how they've just gone a little bit wide there, there's nothing here. I think Folkingham may hold on to this.
I think he will too here, over 305 kilometers an hour. Folkingham best on the brakes then as they run through, and they have to lift off and ease off the brakes through various corners. Benjamin Nelson with the fastest lap, a 9:01.111, and the reason why he's got the fastest lap is because we're talking official fastest laps. There is one thing that all of those drivers in front will say: we were faster. But yes, did you get an off track around the circuit? The answer is yes, they did. And as such, the official fast lap doesn't count. Hingston off the road at turn 1, by the way. He has overcooked the opening corner by about 3 leagues. And he'll look around and say, if you go off at turn 1, it's the toughest place to go through. A look from behind the grill of Zavadil.
Behind the grill from Zavadil, and that is the Shane's having a mistake. And I saw a lot of gravel there, and I believe that was from Hingston coming back onto the track. The gravel really throwing issues there. These cars are already struggling through the Yokohama S's. Let's put some gravel there like it's Mario Kart. They're even more in trouble there. And that move has just allowed Zavadil to get up there. And Hingston, I think, may have some even more problems. He's struggling out there.
Well, it's a hot track, so it's greasy, it's slippery. There's a lot of understeer available in a car that's naturally understeery. On top of that, you put the gravel back onto the circuit. You're on an ice rink here. You're just praying that your right foot can manage. As Nate Stewart here in P5 has Benjamin Nelson now for company. These drivers are 16 seconds off of the race lead as it currently stands. And Nate Stewart's going to look around and say, now I need to be on my best to try and go and defend each and every position I possibly can in a race like this. Walks into today 14th in the championship on just 13 championship points and needs to get everything possible out of this to now start walking forward. Bailica, 6th in the championship leads. Main's the championship leader in 2nd position. And Matteo Kunze, who's 5th in the championship, finds himself in 3rd. Down the hill then for the 3rd time here in this race of what we believe will be 4 laps and in towards the Hatzenbach.
In towards the Hatzenbach, you're seeing in the picture-in-picture Ranieri having a little battle with Ingram Harrison and also Brandon Devine as they continue on. They're about to come to the greenhouse shortly, but we're on board right now. We were on board with that battle. Now to get back to this battle, out of the picture-in-picture, onto the main screen. A nice little dart there, and that could be Ranieri around the outside of the chicane, makes it stick.
Well, that's less of Ranieri making the move and more of Brandon Devine bailing out of the corner because the way he was going to turn in there, he was going to have a quarter panel turn if he was going to turn in. So he had to open up the steering. And when these cars are loaded, they are some of the toughest cars out there in the iRacing service to try and get unloaded again.
Well, they got loaded. Let's try it once again. And again, you're going to see a lot of that load and unload from the springs when you come down these corners, especially over the fluke plats as well. Going to be interesting when they get to it, what they can do. Again, so many different lines. And now I think the drivers starting to work out what to do. Zavadil back in that battle with Folkingham, not the Shanes. The Shanes is behind them. These 3 cars, they have been glued together for the last 8 minutes here, Jake. And nothing can be separated by these 2.
Oh, and Patrick Hingston's out. So Patrick Hingston has had himself a huge moment out there. I think in terms of what's happened to him, that it's something technical. It's a manual disconnect that we've seen from him. So Patrick Hingston out of the race. Everybody +1 up then and start smiling. So Deschênes now into 11th and almost off the road again. Up the top then of the compression to Adenauer first. It is once more the slides and struggles of Folkingham, who's gone off the road at Adenauer first. He'll now have to serve the slowdown penalty to get himself back in line. This could be perfect for Dalton Zavadil, but look at this. This is where it gets clever. If you drive middle of the road here up the top of the hill, it's almost impossible to pass. And look, that's how you're going to serve the penalty.
Brilliant. I think that's not the first time he's done that as well. Just make sure no one can get past. It is a Gandalf style. You shall not pass. And he just holds it there. It's one of the tightest parts of the track. After the tricky Ardner force, it just gets really tight there into Metzgerfield and down into Callan-Hart. They will go once again. Look how much they're trying to attack this chicane. You don't, that little curb, sorry, you don't see that nowadays in GT cars. But with how high these cars are going, it really works. And it's at a run from Zavadil. It almost was, but it just tightens up too much.
into Versiphon, and now looking for more. And this is what happens when you attack, you defend. When you defend, you attack. And this is the plight that you find in the middle of a battle like this if you're Dalton Zavadil. This is what I like to call Schrodinger's overtake, because you've got to do both. You have to attack and defend at the same time. Both are fully active.
Both are fully active. Into X-Mull they go. Once again, a really good run from Deshane there. Look at the run he gets. And now he's going to use it to his advantage because he just used that camber. But there is not enough overlap, and he realizes it. And they come down to the next corner. And this is breakwork right here. He realizes he's not going to have the run. Again, they don't have the downforce. There's no wing on the back of these cars. That spoiler is just there. Just make sure everything stays there. You're not getting a run from it. Zavadil almost goes around.
Well, he's lucky there, a tiny tap, and now that opens up the door for Deshane. Brandon Devine now out of the race. He hit the barriers going into Arenberg, but this is getting really, really intense, and Deshane now starts to pile on the pressure. This is for 9th position right now, and hoping that every way they go, this is going to be theirs to make the move through close to Tal corner, the Bravery bend, and no dice still on the moves, but it's just about finding placement. Zavadil now sends a shot to the back.
Zavadil really carrying the speed, and he is unable to make it work because there is no space and you've got no line. You can't deviate from the line in these massive machines out there. You have to just stick to where you're going on the braking and just hope. Can he get a good run, though, through the carousel? Well, that's what you want. You also need the good run on the exit, and he's not had it. Zavadil, he has not had that go. He's going to have to wait once again.
I do want to highlight the race lead because that was up earlier on in the lap at 3.5 seconds. It's now down to 1.7. The top half of the circuit is a Garrett Mains paradise as off the road again goes Danny Falkingham, and now around the outside of Hoheak is going to come the move. So Matthew Deshane looking for the drive. They are going to battle their way all the way to Vipperman, and around the outside, brilliantly done by the 5 to make sure that he is getting 39's number. Falkingham has held and held and held, and now is going to have to go a bit aggressive in terms of how he finds his move.
And now you've got to feel that the Shades actually has clean air. Let's see what he can do. Can he make 5 seconds up on Hinkston up ahead? I'm not entirely sure, but maybe he can start to pull away from these guys. He's got that top 9 he needs. This is his opportunity to start really pulling away. Now is the time to crank up the curve. Really put it in, and around they both go behind, and they somehow hold it.
And just like that, Falkingham maybe with the tiniest tap as he went into the barriers would have looked around and said, oh, that's not what I wanted. He'll be keeping an eye out here if anything's out of line. He'd had those sideways contact front to rear, so he scrubbed all the speed off when that happened, and in front of them, also going off the road is Deshane again. So it just goes to show you, you cannot switch off around this track. Every corner is a nightmare out there. We've still got battles with Trupiano. We've still got battles with Nate Stewart. We've still got Garrett Mains to think about with 1.8 seconds of a gap heading on to the final lap.
Yeah, do not blink at that one as we look at this with Trupiano having his own little battle. And that is Aaron Ramon he's battling with as they come down into the second flats garden, and another good one. But now we've got a battle on the straight. Nelson is trying to hold off this battle, trying to get this on Nate Stewart. He'll have the inside when they come over the bridge, but I don't think this is going to help him. They could be side by side breaking into Tiergarten. They're going to be breaking into Tiergarten, and how hard they go. They're still side by side for the breaking. Really tough as they go breaking side by side through Tiergarten, and they hold it. They both slide, and Nate Stewart with a great defense there.
That's why he's eNASCAR quality. Nate Stewart having to just get it woed up, and just there, Benjamin Nelson threw all he could at the wall, hoped it stuck, and it just didn't. Final lap of this race starts. It's only just the 26 kilometers. Well, there's good news here, Craig. I'm not going to call 26 kilometers solo. They are going to fight with everything they've got. Drive off the exit is just there, but it's balked slightly there by Stewart, taking that line to cover just at the 11th hour.
There is no, I would have had you next lap when it comes to the Nordschleife. You know the laps you got to do, and you have to do it in the time. No excuses, and you've got to feel Nelson. He thought he almost had him. Dude, I almost had you, he said. But there is no such thing as that right now, and he's going to have to reset, reload, recharge, and do it all over again. But there are loads of opportunities around here today for him.
Well, there certainly is, and keep an eye out on it because Nelson's been watching for an entire lap of what Nate Stewart can do. And I do want to point the lead as Falkingham and Zavadil and also still Deschênes. This battle never ceases to find a source of entertainment. Falkingham down the inside at the Paget Racing curve. He overcooks it and he goes gravel bound, sliding on through and will lose contact with the group. But I want to point Garrett Mains out. He's every single lap been able to find time through the middle sector of the lap. And that's key because I think Mains can get to the back of Bielica. The issue he's got, Bielica's good, sectors 1 and 3.
Yeah, Bielica's good, sections 1 and 3. But if Mains can get in the slipstream, that's going to be all he needs out there. That's going to be very interesting to see. But we've got to keep our eyes on what Deschênes is doing. He's trying to get this P9 from Zavadil. It's not going to happen yet. The GP circuit, really good opportunity, but look at the sliding he's doing in that Xfinity car, really throwing all the weight around. The rear goes around, but he cannot make it. And a good run could set him up into the chicane, but again, he just cannot get the throttle down.
No, this has been a game that we've seen time and time again. You have to be patient waiting for the throttle. This is not going to be a car that rewards you by just dumping your right foot down to the floor. You got to wait and wait and wait. And now, thinking of that lunge to the inside, left the door slightly ajar, and now looks to try and prise his way through like he's got a crowbar. Deschênes at the inside of Sabine Schmidt, who could do this time in a van, but we're doing it here in Supras, and he does a pass.
Sabine would be very happy of an overtake like that into the corner, and that is why it's named after her. She loved it, and that is a great little tribute there from Deschênes into the corner. Now, I've said it before, and I don't want to curse the man a second time. He's got the clear air. Can he hold on to this right now? He doesn't have to worry too much about Falkingham. He knows he's faster than Zavadil at the moment. He just has to keep all 4 tires on the track, not inside the track, on the track to hold on.
Yeah, that's the key. 1.6 seconds as they now crest the rise and head their way once more to the final time at Adenauer first. Louis Bielica has led each and every single meter of this race. Garrett Mains has fallen back off the start to 4th, had to work through Matteo Kunza, had to find the pass on Aaron Smith, and now is trying to hunt on down a driver who has the most experience around this track. Nelson remaining close with Nate Stewart, who just has the middle of the road covered. It's like he's got this one on lock at the moment. It's like he's a Scalextrics and there's no way to pass.
Well, I think he knows how to drive Arden Force because that's really good defense on Arden Force there. It's one that most drivers like to do. In the middle, you hold on to it. In picture, we'll keep our eyes on that lead battle with Bielica and Mains just trying to find that extra time that Mains needs. We'll keep that here, but on the screen, Nelson still looking for opportunities. That was his first chance, really, coming out of Arden Force. He's got another one coming up soon. But the key here, Jake, is to make sure you're staying together before you can make it. Don't think 5 corners ahead when it comes to the Nordschleife. You can only think 1 corner ahead.
You only can in terms of where you can find the drive, and each and every line gives you an opportunity, but you do sometimes have to think 5 in front in terms of where's the best place to pass, because the best place is always the back stretch, the run over through, of course, the Lauda links after Bergwerk, which was the section of track where Niki Lauda famously had that fire in 1976. The legendary Formula 1 battle gets into the side of him there, trying to find any angle. Nate Stewart opens the steering, goes over the curb, saves himself the race, and still holding on to that top 5 and vital points, which Benjamin Nelson, he has been bottled up. And my Admiral, you need everything you can to make this pass.
Oh, Captain, my Captain, it does not work, and it hasn't worked for anybody at that corner today. And now he has to just set it up, load the car, unload the suspension, and now they hit the Kessel Chen. And I just don't feel, with the way that these drivers have to shift up in these cars, and a lot of these drivers know how to do that, it is really tough to really get ahead. This is going to be a battle at the Bravery corner at Costacal. That is what's going to be very vital. Nelson's got the speed, but there's nowhere to go. Stewart makes the cover.
He covers it now, but is the door going to be open here at Klostertal corner? No, it is not. So now you're starting to think at what's next. Where is the next point we can go? They know that the Caracciolo Carousel is on the horizon, and if they can find any way to get the inside there, it is a slam dunk guarantee overtake. Nelson diving down the inside, hoping his move's there. He's on the wrong side of Lady Luck, though. If he wants this pass at the Carousel, he'll have to back out of it here. A great attempt, but it was just that, an attempt, and they both missed the Carousel. Who's going to be first back onto it again? It is Nelson. Now they're going to be side by side to Hoheacht.
Side by side, they will go up to Hoheacht, and you see that Nelson's got the run. He managed to do the over-under at the Carousel, so you don't really hear, and he cuts off the move, and Stewart's got nowhere to go, and that is all she wrote for the move at the moment. Picture in picture, we've got to get to the lead as well. Garrett Mays has really caught up to it, but here comes Stewart, trying to do a bumper and run and make the overtake again.
Oh, classic Nate Stewart. That's just wonderful, finding that move. Absolutely incredible there on the pass. And Louis Bylicker, this is where the race now becomes, because he knows here, Craig, he knows that gap's down to a second, and he needs the best final sector in the world.
I'm pretty sure he can do what he can on the final sector. We see Deshane still having his little battle with Zavadil in the picture-in-picture, but let's keep all eyes on this lead battle, because there's only about 30 corners left to go on the track, and those 30 corners are very important, and Bylicker is ticking them off. Now 29, now 28, now 27. The time is ticking down for Garrett Mains.
He is, he knows he's running out of time, but if he can stay within a second, he's got a chance of slipstream. Look at them out of the Beloff S. Both of them took a little bit of a wider line there. Now they try and drive it hard through the Schwalbenschwanz, and now they find themselves with the last great braking zones to come along left. The mini carousel, and that gap now up at 1.6 seconds. Is that the resignation there from Garrett Mains, who's trying all he can to close down? Or is Louis Bylicker going to feel that he's safe up at the top of the Gobenkopf? It's such an easy corner to go and get wrong, and you know that when you exit this section, you've got a long Dottinger Herve which comes next, and if you've got a gap of over a second, you can breathe one sigh of relief here. Take a chance to stretch the fingers, take a chance to stretch the toes, but not the right one. You've got to keep it flat to the floor unless you find a brick to put underneath it, and realise that you've got one great braking zone left, and that's coming through Tiergarten, which gives you that final chance through. Garrett Mains trying everything he can on the power. 310 kilometers an hour he hopes for. Battle still on for the top 5, but Louis Bylicker knows that this was a must-win performance on virtual home soil. He rounds himself now into the final couple of corners, and breathe, Louis, and breathe. He's had to stave off Garrett Mains' launch, but from lights to flag, Louis Bylicker takes it here at the Nürburgring. It will be Mains in second and Matteo Kunzer in third. A battle for the top 5 of the ages as Nate Stewart holds the line, but can he hold the brakes?
I think he's got it held down. Nelson couldn't get the line in there, and Stewart cut everything off. It will be a drag race, because I think Nelson's got the best run here, and a slide there from Stewart. He has to hold it. There's an overlap. It's going to be so tight, and I don't think Nelson's got it. He's going to run out of real estate, and Stewart will hold on for that vital 5th place.
Well, the key there was Stewart got a massive bucket of oversteer, and the track was so narrow coming off of the exit there. There was nowhere for Nelson's run to go. He was balked every which way from Sunday. Zavadil will find that Matthew Deshane will be trying the same thing that Nelson did, sliding it about then through the final section, looking for any sort of launch heading over towards the line. Deshane, though, can't get any drive out of it, and Dalton Zavadil is going to hold on for a 9th place finish. With all things considered, they are going to be driving in anywhere up to 5.5 minutes off of the race lead here, as Andy Trupiano now will continue his scrap to head over towards the line. So these drivers all looking to make progress here. This for 13th place, and that is a very, very big fade out there for some drivers through. But Aaron Ramon finds himself there. Big slides from Trupiano. He feels he survived today with a 13th place.
got to feel that he's managed to survive the challenge out there today. Ranieri comes around and Ingram Harrison will hold on. Stanley will come in 16. One thing I want to point out there, Jake, we talk about Bialicki. He had it all so easy. It wasn't so easy. He officially set the fastest lap with an 8:58.9. Wasn't the fastest lap. Garrett Maines in that last lap was a 57.8. That pressure was on non-stop today, and somehow Bialicki managed to fend off the pressure.
Likes of Anton Schopler out there, Brandon Williams still trying to make progress. We've got cars in the pits as well, taking toe time. So that's Christian Heinz, there's Talon Hibschman, Zachary Mertz, and Brendan Blinn are all drivers out there who find themselves in that position. Brandon Williams will be just heading through the carousel in a moment. He's got officially here in iRacing. Here's the funny thing with how much time you have to go through. Schopler takes a big wide line. They're coming through Antonius Bruges and through into Tiergarten. He's got officially 10 minutes and 40 seconds now to finish off his race. Otherwise, he'll be classified as a lap down. But Anton Schopler here, making his way to the line, will officially be 17th. So this will be a race here between Brandon Williams and 4 tow trucks to see if he can take what is one place of 18th.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when you go to the London Marathon where you've got the sweepers at the back saying, look, it's done. We're trying to sweep up. We need to get the roads reopened, but there's no roads to be reopened right now. It is all Brandon Williams on his own. But you've got to feel, even though he is struggling out there, he isn't the fastest driver out there today. But you've got to say, if you can drive one of these cars around here and keep it clean, you've got to give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah, this is very much got a Tour de France style moment of it because they have something called the broom wagon at the back of the field. And what happens when you decide that you retire from the Tour de France early is that they strip your number off and they decide to put you in the back of the broom wagon because the broom wagon is the last car of the race, even behind the ambulances that go along with the Tour, and their job is quite simply sweep the road behind the riders and make sure everything's okay. It's very much that style of feel. William, who had a stint in the pits, by the way, is still trying very hard to get this one back over the line and trying to recover, and this is why it's important that we're keeping a focus here on Brandon Williams trying to find the finish from Club New York, because each and every position he can gain here is more opportunities to score. And he'll be looking around at those drivers who are in and around here. 19th place is a couple points, and he'd love a couple points.
And what do points mean? Points mean prizes, but also a really good chance to just get a little bit of a talking point. I will say, every time that I've watched one last driver out there at the Green Hell, something always happens, and knock on wood that never happened, because in the famous words, no, please don't do it. No, you count them all out, you count them all back in, and he's doing what he can, just having a small moment, but he knows he gets around these next 2 corners. He's got a real big sigh of relief, because that Dossinger Hoa, every time you get to it, is just oh so much of a relief.
It is, as he now finds that Dossinger Herve for the final time, and he will be the last classified finisher out there, I believe. The likes of Christian Hinz is going to be unable to find that. He's jumped out from the car. Talon Hibschman, not much he can do, and Zachary Mertz as well, I think, is going to find himself in the same position. So Brandon Williams along the Dossinger Herve, passing the tourist entrance out there on the right-hand side. That's the way you enter onto the Nürburgring if you go here. And it's effectively a toll road here, by the way. This is the most expensive toll road. And if you do go out here and you do crash your car here, Craig, you are liable for the damages to repair the track. So I have seen bills of upwards of €500,000 euros out there, which is roughly about $500,000 US in terms of repairs, just to make sure that the barriers all around work as Williams comes to the line and will officially classify in 19th.
Yeah, there's a reason I don't do a lot of race car driving, because I don't think I can afford those barriers. But I tell you what I can afford. I can afford a rundown of the top 28 drivers out there today, Jake. And I might as well let you take it away.
Well, Louis Bialicki on home soil needed that, and he got that confirmed. A winning margin of just 1 second in the end over the championship leader, Garrett Maines, who will extend his championship margin after today's performance. Matteo Kunze would finish off in third ahead of Aaron Smith, who is here today as part of a fantastic run's worth of action. Nate Stewart will finish off in 5th with a legendary defense against Benjamin Nelson. It was then Bryce Rodriguez and Mark Anthony Hinkson who would find himself in 8th, gains of 3 respectively, with Dalton Zavadil finding himself in 9th ahead of Matthew Deschênes, who would round out the top 10.
Daniel Folkham did finish in 11th, made up 4 places, and Aaron Ramon started 12th, finished in 12th, with Andy Tripiano making 3 places up into 13th, and Alessandro Ranieri into 14th. And Noah Ingram Harrison made 11 spots up there today. He comes to 15th, with Riley Stancy 16th. Anton Schloper will be 17th. Connor Henry takes that 18th. Brandon William will be 19th, with Christian Hines 1 lap down officially in 20th.
Yep, and over the page, these drivers are lapped down or worse. They all had issues on the final lap of the race. Tannen Hibschman, Zachary Mertz, and Brendan Blinn. We saw Patrick Hingston leave the race 2 laps early. So too Brandon Devine and Dustin Yang, who spent a long time in the pits. Charles Wimbley officially 3 laps down, and a non-starter today for Bryce Wyatt, who found himself with nothing to do watching Louis Bielica go wire to wire. We got the opportunity, though, to speak to a couple drivers. Craig King's jumped down pit lane. He's found Louis Bielica.
Yeah, I've got Louis Bielica out here today. And Louis, it's safe to say this is a track you are used to, but I don't think this is the car you are used to. How is this as an experience compared to a normal lap around the Nordschleife?
It's totally different. I mean, when I saw the track, I knew I was going to be sort of competitive, since I ran a championship, or still running a championship around here, which every round is a Nürburgring lap. Yeah, with the car, I mean, it was definitely interesting since I had to buy it and I never ran oval, so I just knew the tires were going to be the key factor in this race. And yeah, thankfully they held up till the end of the race.
Yeah, it's a good thing these tires do last, but they don't exactly last so much out there when you're on oval. Talk me through that learning process, because for some of these drivers, they had to learn the track. You didn't have to learn the track. You had to learn that car right away. And if you go from a sports car where you can brake super late to a car like this where the braking is just triple, how is that? How quickly did you have to learn what to do? And were you still learning during the race?
Yeah, I was for sure still learning during the race. Normally I drive a Porsche Cup, which also has no ABS, so that was kind of helpful for me as well with the braking, since I could not just abuse the ABS in the braking, but actually had to take care of it. So that was kind of already fine for me, but finding the right brake pressure was like done in the first 10 minutes, and then it was just figuring out how to downshift in this car. Then also the standing start, which was really important, and yeah.
Yeah, standing start, something that these cars never see. So that was one for the books, definitely. But what was interesting to see as well is we know your pedigree out here. We know how much you love this track. And officially, you had the fastest lap. But unofficially, Garrett was constantly putting pressure on you. Was there any moment in that final lap that you thought you were actually going to be fretted? Because we did see you were faster in some of the sections, but that gap at the end was only just a second.
Yeah, I think he managed his tires quite well over the entire race, better than me. And in lap 3, I had quite a moment in the carousel where I had a big slide out of the exit. So I lost like a second, and that's where I was like, man, the gap is now from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, and that's really tight for this track. There's a small mistake where you just drift over a little bit over the curb, or take the jump over one of the curbs wrong, and that's where you just lose all the time. And when you lose confidence like that, it can quickly pile up and you just get a lot of pressure. But thankfully I just managed to keep my cool, and yeah, Garrett also had a little bit of struggles from what I've seen with the tires at the end.
Well, you were cool, calm, and collected today from lights to lights. You held the lead and kept the victory. So congratulations there. Before we let you go, is there anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just I would shout out Dalton, who was in the VC with me. So made the race quite more interesting than just staying by myself there and not falling asleep on the Dettinger.
Well, Louis, congratulations on the victory today. We look forward to seeing you at the next round. That was Louis Bielica, who came home in the victory. I'm just going to be walking around to see if I can find a Garrett Mains. Here is a Garrett Mains, definitely here with me today. And Garrett, that looked a really close battle at the end there. Did you think for a moment you might have had the victory?
I just needed a mistake. Unfortunately, right off the get-go, starting on what is the outside line for turn 1, just couldn't get a bad start. And I really don't know what I did as far as like I was trying to slip the clutch, and I have, kind of a bite point mapped on a physical, like, foot clutch. And I don't know if I just had it too high or too low, but I got absolutely waxed on that start. So I don't know if I just didn't put my settings back or what from running 87s the other night. But yeah, I mean, that cost us big. We had to make up, a couple spots there, and put us about 3 seconds behind Lewis there for the first 2 laps, basically. Just not a lot of time to make it up. I mean, obviously a second at the Nürburgring is not really that much, but when you're chasing a professional road course driver, it's pretty difficult to make up any kind of time at all. And I was trying to capitalize on every mistake he made and just keep my tires on it. But I mean, as the race progressed, it became very clear that I was going to have to turn it up, and just literally wasn't time to do it. I mean, I was able to make up a little here, a little there, but if you give me another lap, I'm able to do it a little bit more methodically. Just, with it being literally basically 2.5 laps to make something happen, you have to turn it up to 100 and just hope you don't make any mistakes. And yeah, it's a lot to ask at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, we know your pedigree on the oval side, so this car would not have been a surprise to you at all. But just knowing that you had to go on the Nordschleife in a car like this must have been a different experience, because, like I would say to Violecki, it's not the car that you expect around here. It's not the car that you would drive around here like a sports car. So how was that in working out the different braking zones, knowing that your pedigree in oval racing?
Yeah, I mean, this was a first for me. I've never actually taken a stock car out on the ring, so this is one of those tracks. I mean, I remember when I was younger, when this first came out on here. I was running, I think it was the Roof Cup. I mean, running the C-Spec around here was a real challenge, but I really haven't spent much time on it since then. I mean, I've maybe ran part of a 24, but that's about all we've got. So I don't know. I felt like there was quite a bit of, adapting that had to go on in the practice. And, obviously the car is familiar, but to an extent, the details of the track, I wouldn't say are super familiar. And so just trying to find where I can make up some time and what this car wanted. Obviously, since the only thing I've ever driven here is sports cars, you move your markers back and your reference points are a lot different. And I will tell you, the carousel was an experience. This thing is a track muncher through there. So, just trying to figure out what the car wanted and how to really capitalize on, on the characteristics was a big part of this race. But it's just that, it was short. I was really hoping we'd have that full field invert. I really thought, from a passing perspective, I thought I would have an advantage just because I'm familiar with the car. But yeah, we got what we got. I feel like from a points perspective, I mean, I needed to come in the top 3. Realistically, I needed to be as close to Lewis as it could be, and we were right there. So,
well, you were right there. Points still there on the board for you, and a podium spot, of course. So at the end of the day, there are wins, and of course there are the losses as well, which the P2 technically is a loss, but they've got to take the points. A real good showing out there today, and you've still got a few more races left in the series, so there is still time to play up. But before we let you go out there, Garrett, today, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, absolutely. Got to give a huge thank you to Wigan Water Technologies for their support this season. We actually just ran the Bathurst 12-hour last night, so honestly, in contrast, this was significantly easier than driving the Mercedes on the flooded mountain. So, definitely cool to be able to represent them 2 days in a row. But big thank you to them. Also, thank you to Scott at MCU Body, Lennox, and appreciate y'all broadcasting this. Should be quite a show to go back and watch.
Yeah, trust me, it's always a show here on Global Sim Racing Channel. Thank you very much once again, Garrett. Garrett Maines came so close at the Nordschleife, but finishes P2 overall to take that championship closer and closer. And before we go for the day, one more man I'd love to try and find. Aaron Smith, the second, is here. And Aaron, it was a quiet race. Started in P2 with a really good qualifying. Finished 4th, though, but it looks like that was still a surviving victory out there for you.
Yeah, I would say so. I completely burnt the right tire, or the front tires off on that first lap, and I knew that I was going to be in trouble once I had Garrett and Mateo on my bumper. So I wanted to kind of give them room to get past me. I didn't want to impede them and take away their shot at the win because Lewis was flying the whole race. I did not have anything for that. Even in qualifying, I put down the lap of my life, and he still got me by half a second. But it's a great race all around. I'm glad we had this on the schedule. I was looking forward to a stock car race this time around, and we had a really good one. So hopefully we'll have more to come here in the future and in future seasons. I'd like to thank all the folks here for watching and y'all for putting these broadcasts on. It was a heck of a race.
It was indeed a heck of a race, even though it was only one race out there today. And you say you love the stock car races when they come here. This is a road course. Stock cars go on road courses. Not a road course like this, and I know you said you lit up the fronts, but on a track like this where you can't abuse the curves like you could on a traditional track, that must have been quite an experience. So how was your first thoughts and your first run through the green hell there today on a car that shouldn't really be on this track?
I mean, I had a little bit of practice leading up to it because I was involved with getting the setup set up and everything like that. But it was terrifying. When you have cars all around you, you never know who's going to have a run, where it's going to come from. And you don't want to get run over, but you also don't want to be the one to run somebody over. So fortunately, we didn't have any of that at the front. And there was a sizable gap behind me there in fourth. So I was able to just ride my way home. But overall, I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, I think anytime you come around the green hell, you've got to enjoy it. And it was a nice little run to see everyone out there as well. I know you can't really dive into anything else, but I'm pretty sure you must be looking forward now to what could be coming later in the season, because your favorite, well, one of your favorites that you were hoping to cross out around had having the stock cars. What's next for you? You've had your bliss for the season.
Yeah, like you said, I can't say much else about it. It's going to be a great season from here to the end. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out for the rest of the field. And I think the points battle might have tightened up just a little bit there. I know Garrett didn't win. He was pretty close, but I'm not sure where Luis was. But it should be great to watch from the admin booth.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And you can watch everything on Global Sim Racing Channel later in the season. Aaron, before we let you go for the night or the day, it's only fair that you get the final say.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of you at the Global Sim Racing channel for bearing with us today. I know the format was a little different from what we'd originally intended, but it still put on a great race nonetheless. I'd like to thank all the folks in the field for sticking with us. I know there were a few people who had to put a few dollars down to get this track and get this car, and appreciate them for sticking around. And I'd like to thank all the folks for watching. I'm looking forward to getting back at it whenever I show up next. And now I'm going to have to hop in the PT Autosport car for the Bathurst 12 hour here in a few minutes, so I'm looking forward to that too.
Well, I would have loved to got back into my car for the Bathurst 12, but we don't talk about that. So I wish you all the best and go well for that. And a thank you very much for coming into the booth. Congratulations on the P4 today, Aaron. And we look forward to seeing you later in the season.
All right. Thank you.
That was Aaron Smith, who finishes in fourth today. And that will be all she wrote out there today. So I want to give a thanks, of course, to Jake, who had to quickly pop away for other commitments, and of course Christian, Daniel, and once again Dougie Beard. Now, of course, if you do like what you see, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and keep a list, of what is coming up later this weekend and for the following weeks. As you see, the Porterona Cup, the Grand Prix Legends, and of course, IMSA Vintage next weekend. Classic Lotus will be tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow lunchtime for the Americans at the Hockenheim Ring. So do look forward to that. It promises to be a fantastic race. So before we let you go, though, thank you very much once again for staying with us after all the technical issues and watching a cracking race around the Nordschleife. Don't forget, though, next time, 1 hour before the race, we know where it is going to be, which is the date and the time. We don't know what it's going to be. So do be prepared to see the possible chaos that could be the PT Autosports eSeries. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you next time out on track. But until then, race clean and race hard, and we will see you on that track.